think I did it too early. Meta predictions for Order. So we're going to walk through all the different Order armies. We've seen a lot of stuff now. Like, this is not a faction-focused review, right? This is We've seen a lot more information now. This is like a midpoint between faction focus and, like, full rules, right? That's kind of where we're at right now. Just a timestamp.
We've got enough information to make real opinions about this.
Exactly.
We're wrong a little bit on if points are, like, egregiously outside of where they should be or something like that. But I think we do have enough information to be, like, having pretty good assessment.
Well, it's like take two. It's take two, right? It's not our final, because, like, before I start getting into this rant, I'm going to thank my patrons, and Wybarian for the channel art, and Baron of Dice for supporting the channel. Oops, I always do that. Yeah. Let's see, what point was I going to make? It's gone. We're talking about Order, right?
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Order.
I mean, if we're going to talk Order, we got to talk the Golden Boys first, I think.
Let's
probably.
do it.
Got to, right?
Eternals.
Yeah.
I think, like, just right off the bat, I think they're done right.
Yeah.
They feel like Stormcast. They feel like they should feel. I haven't seen that many War Scrolls specifically, but like what I have seen and what I have read on their artifact, everything feels correct. And I think they've done a good job of writing these rules. Hopefully, they're like infantry, this is what I haven't seen a lot of. Are like they've been saying they're doing a little better. They showed some of the stats of it on the Goonhammer article, stuff like that. Like they're a little bit fightier than before because they're kind of pillow fisted, and it's like, why are these super powered golden dudes hitting on 4s and 4s or whatever? Like they're doing a little bit better, a little more damage, but they're still that kind of same identity that they should have with the teleporting, the armored guys, the noble knights. Like they're doing a little bit better job of it, I think, than before. And the last book was the most boring thing on earth. Oh my god, I hated it. This one doesn't look that way. So
they're gonna feel really tanky.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna feel really tanky compared to what they used to. Yeah. Like their ability to give like 5-up wards and +1 saves and like yes.
And just having good base saves. Like with Rend going down pretty much across the board, unless you have anti whatever. And like way less mortal damage.
Way less Rend.
It's
like armor saves are gonna base saves are gonna be really important.
People always compare Stormcast to like the Space Marines, but I feel like in this edition they're gonna feel like Custodes. They're actually just gonna be like mega tanky and elite.
Well, here's a question for you. So the Annihilator with Shield has a 2-up save, right? Yeah. And then is it once per game you can give it a +1 save?
I think so.
It's their finest hour, right? Is the rule? Hold on, yeah. I got it here in front of me. Anyway, so with reduced rent, pick a friendly Stormcast unit that has not used this ability this battle, so it's a once per game. So you can have a block of 6 of these bad boys. Like, what's getting through that?
Nothing.
Like, what's getting through that? They're on a 2-up, and then it's like,
ignoring Ren 2 with all out defense.
Yeah, but well, you don't even have to do that. It's like, oh yeah, like whatever. Like the big turn that you pop your thing, I'll just all out defense, and then some other turn I'll just like it's just silly. Like they're never gonna die. They're never gonna die.
I think it's thematic. Like they're coated head to toe in steel, and they're very elite. And they should have been way more elite than they were before. Like they're gonna be the Custodes, like you said. Like, and I think that's way more of like what Stormcast players in their head want to be. They want to be playing Custodes. They want that sort of feel, and I think they're going to have that. And all these rules I'm seeing, they are powerful. Like the finest hour, that's super strong. But like there's counterplay to it because only one unit they pick, so you just fight something else, right? If you can, but they're still going to force you to not do that. So it's like there's all these abilities are really interesting, and they really are hitting the flavor more in the head than before. Because like a Stormcast should feel like a monster. Like you should come in and just absolutely beat the shit out of you and refuse to die. And they didn't feel like that before. They felt like the most passive, mediocre blah guys with like a couple exceptions. So I'm really excited about this, honestly. Even though I don't like Stormcast that much, but like I like them a lot more now.
They're very like I don't know.
They just have a lot of tools too. They have a prayer war and a spell war.
No, it's just that they're kind of boring. Like, it's just that the army's kind of boring. There's just very, like, it's just, I don't know. It's the honest wargamer. I really agree with this point that Cities of Sigmar should be the poster child for Age of Sigmar. right? And then Stormcast should be like made super different, like way more interesting and complicated, and like, I don't know, it's like, hey, guess what? We drop into combat, and then everything's good at what it says on the box. The end.
I mean,
That's
a
it.
good beginner army, but like, for like narrative stuff, it is like they're not the most interesting.
These shooty guys, they shoot, and these more expensive shooty guys shoot better.
And then this
Like-
guy, he looks really spiky and armored, so he's hard to kill.
And these guys got giant shields, right? So they must
Yeah.
But I
have.
mean,
That's
that is what you want from a starter box army.
exactly.
You do want that.
Exactly, and that's why they suck. Is because they are the poster boy. If it was
But I
cities,
don't-
they could be cool.
I don't think that this new rule set, from what we're seeing in the indexes, unless the war scrolls are all insanely boring, I don't think the rules are boring anymore. Like,
No.
I think there's a lot more interesting stuff on War Scrolls, and I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think that this could actually that
I
point
think-
makes me think this could be their time to shine.
the
This is
game
a-
apparently-
looks so much better than before, so I'm excited for them.
Apparently,
I think-
Andrasta is really good now.
Oh, she's busted, and you guys were talking about monsters. Like
She
she's
does
got
8 damage to a monster.
well, no, but she does like what is it? But it's an 8 ranged attack.
Yeah, it's a spear that she throws that has like Rend 3 against monsters and does 8 damage, and it's super accurate.
Well, it's threes and twos, 3
Yeah.
rend, 8 damage, but it's just one attack,
Hilarious.
right? But it's the
Like,
rest of her
it's so
stuff.
Just one.
But
Like, how can you say this cast are boring and now they have the rules like that? Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, before, it was just everything was like threes, and like or fours threes with a bunch of the same stuff across. And now they have cool stuff. Like, it's more interesting. The way the rules are written are more interesting, and that 8 damage is gonna feel so good when you land it.
Unless you're
but
the
before,
Gargant
like,
player.
Well, yeah, but like she's balanced around that, right? Like that's her
Right.
whole thing.
Well, she can
and you
deal
run away-
20 points of damage to a Gargant.
And as a Gargant's player, you have to work really hard to not be next to the anti-monster character, right? You do everything you can to let that happen, and I think that's how the game should feel.
12-inch
Where
flying, though.
Before Andrasta just kind of made your monsters sort of boring in the combat, but it wasn't fun. Like, it wasn't a cool moment, and now it is.
And well, and everybody has so much more movement tools now. You know,
Like Andrasta with a 3d6 charge.
Yeah, like she has the 3d6 charge, and now you know
roll.
you have redeploy, adding your run bonuses to your redeploys, and like charge on the opponent's turn, and power through, and like all these really awesome movement abilities that allow you to kind of react more and not just kind of be locked
Run!
into wherever you end your turn for the next 10 minutes. You know.
At least she
Yeah.
doesn't retreat. I mean, she will retreat, but she's not a monster. Well, she'll probably power through because she's got 8 health. Yeah.
If she's fighting a monster, probably not.
No,
but
I
yeah.
mean, like, I'm thinking about more like getting her stuck in combat, like how to pin her
Right.
down.
That's
right?
what you
But
want
she'll-
to try to do. Yeah.
But she'll probably power through whatever you stick on
She's
her.
probably going to be up in points substantially from before, because now before she just couldn't even do her own one job. Now she can, and it's going to be a very strategic thing of like, if they don't have monsters, she's massively worse and not worth the points anymore. So like, there's a risk reward. She's not going to be in every army. At first, she probably will because she's fucking cool. But
And everybody has
people-
one.
Yeah, and everyone has one. But she's a niche pick. She does what she needs to do, and she does it well. So before, everything was too fucking all around vanilla boys, and now it's like they're more specialized and more interesting and more elite. So
How about
Yeah.
Cities of Sigmar?
Cities of Sigmar, I don't have the strongest opinions on.
Yeah.
They're
They-
hard to assess.
I think they look really fun. I think
Yeah.
they look really fun. I think the way that they design the rules and the way that everything looks, I feel like it's going to kind of feel like OBR a little bit, I think, but a little bit more like, I don't know, more spirit. I feel like if you wanted to play an army that felt like an army, like a real army, I think Cities is your thing, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
they're extremely hard to assess power level wise from what we've seen. Like, I just have no idea.
They are, and I agree, but I think that overall, I kind of have a feeling that they're gonna be a mid army at worst.
Yeah,
It's kinda how I'm feeling about
them. Look bad, and because, like you said, they're an army. They're an army. So like, it's going to be dependent on the pilot how good they do. Like, they're not going to fight. They're not going to just win games on their own.
No, they're
You
not
know,
going to be Iron Jaws where they just charge at you and kill you.
Yeah, because sometimes you just get free wins with certain armies.
Yes.
But those armies also have like more glaring weaknesses. They look very well rounded, but hard to play.
Yeah, I think they're going to be great. I think that Cities players should be excited to play Cities this edition.
Because the book that came out recently was like, oh man, there's a lot of cool ideas, but the actual implementation was a little awkward.
Yeah.
And dark. I think hopefully when we see all the rules, it'll come out to a better end product that does, because like what they were going from last book was awesome. This kind of missed the mark a little bit, and I think they probably learned from that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, what's next? Let's see what's next on this list here. KO.
KO look busted, like just insane. I am worried about KO.
Really?
At first, I wasn't worried about them, and then we got the Goonhammer stuff. I saw some more stuff they have, and I know some really, really good KO players who are explaining some of the implications of some of these things. It's not that like just the battle traits got tuned in, so you can't do egregious shenanigans you used to do before, because there was like these weird like edge case things that would just be like, that doesn't feel right. Like you shouldn't be allowed to do that. And it did fix a lot of that stuff, but there's certain things, like for example, the generic command to shoot during the opponent's shooting phase at -1 to hit. That's going to be pretty disgusting in KO, as an example. When you're like running 10 Thunderers in a thing and you shoot during the opponent's turn, you're -1 to hit, but like you have such rate of fire, it's not going to matter that much. The Cunning Fleet Master lets you like reroll your Sky Vessel's redeploys, which is really like really impactful because your entire army's in that thing a lot of time. And you roll 2 dice and you take the highest. So it's
redeploy is going to be so much better than it was in third.
Yeah.
Right? It's any unit anywhere. And so you can do it like for all kinds of reasons. You can use it in so many different ways. And because redeploy, I think it's going to be so much better than it was. Like redeploy is not reactive anymore. It's like you just get to move in your opponent's movement phase.
Yeah.
You just get to move, and you can move anywhere for any reason, for any tactical whatever. So it's anything that affects redeploy, like re-rolling it or having a 4-up redeploy like Curl Boys do, is going to be way stronger than I think people are expecting. It's a sleeper. It's a sleeper buff.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of things like at a good KO player is going to be just the most filthiest thing on earth. And there's some interesting, like the Gruncor's Wing combined with what's it called? Endrin Maestro can make your Thunderers get like +5 to their range on their guns.
Yeah.
Which is like really strong with an army that's designed around having to get close and hopefully shoot you off. Being able to add that range is a big deal. So,
it is good. I think that if you take Endrin Maestro though, you have to give up the movement command trait, which looked like, I think, much better for KO.
I mean, like, it depends on how you're building specifically, right? But
yeah.
I mostly agree with that. The Fleet Master one's probably better, but like if you're running a lot of Thunderers, Endrin Maestro is pretty crazy, and you can fit an absolutely insane number of units inside of an Ironclad now.
You can, yeah, but they're not inside. Remember?
Yeah, but
they're being ferried, but they can't be inside.
Right, because before they used to be inside and then shoot at you.
And that was the good thing about the faction. I think that KO actually is in the dumpster, and that everyone is huffing copium on this faction.
Tell me more.
They can't hold objectives. They barely have objective control, and if they ever get locked in combat, they instantly die. They don't have wards, really, for their units. Their armor saves didn't improve, really. I guess the ships are still kind of tanky, but if you just leave all the ships and then you kill all the dwarves that can't hide in the ships now, they just can't score.
Right, so you think that like Ironjaws just throws dudes
Ironjaws
at them,
annihilates this
and then it's like they just take all the objectives, and it's like, well,
Yeah. Iron
Okay,
Dust
so
can KO on turn 1.
What do you think to that, Aaron? What do you think to objective control? Do you think that that's maybe their weakness, but that they're still gonna be really good, or like what do you think?
I think they're a little bit better at objective control than before because like when you're in the vessel, you couldn't really count as any models on it. So like they're gonna not be in the vessel; they're gonna be back behind the boats for the most part, using the boats as like a screen for their army, shooting through the boats on objectives and stuff like that. So I actually don't think it's gonna be as much of a problem. It does depend very much on points because like if their points are increased, then they won't work. But
so
like,
what I'm hearing you say is that the boats are going to act more as screens for the ranged units behind them, and that's kind of how they're going to survive. That the boats become
bury
like
them in, and the boats are going to be in between the enemy, and the infantry.
Right.
I think it'll just be a very limited play style if they play like that, because you have to take the +5 move range if you're going to do that to get your weapons to reach, and you have to play Thunderers, and even with the +5-inch range, their guns got range reductions going into 4th, so they're just not reaching that far across the table, even with their longest range stuff. A lot of armies, so like they won't be able to take territory very well, I don't think, with that.
Yeah, it depends on whether or not they can hit the critical mass of units on the table,
Yeah,
like
sure.
shooting and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
If their points are just a little bit too high, they just won't get there.
Yes.
But if they aren't, I'm worried about how strong being able to just shoot in general during the enemy's shooting phase without requiring like unleash shell type stuff, and like some of the aspects like that I'm worried about, because there's a reason they took like all the shooting and brought it down substantially.
Yeah.
And their shooting still looks pretty damn strong.
It looks okay. I don't think their hit and wound profiles on the Thunderers are that great.
They are the same as they were before.
Yeah, they weren't that great when they re-released the last one.
But I mean, have you ever fought the Thunderer army? Because it certainly feels pretty great.
It just doesn't hit, or like with the rend buffs that they had, it would be okay sometimes, but like it was only that good then because we could shoot from farther away and hide inside of a boat. And I think that if you have to hide behind the boat, you lose like a pretty substantial amount of range, plus the range lost going into the new edition, that like you're gonna actually have to get pretty close to people to do damage with Thunderers.
I think they can,
because the best guns are the shorter ranged ones.
Yeah, I think they can reduce. I think that the rules are going to be okay, and that they'll find their point cost, right? Like, because one thing that you were saying earlier, Aaron, is that like they need that critical mass, right? And so if you just sort of keep dropping their points, they can reach that.
Yeah,
and then we'll see.
I also think that like the stuff like 3+ saves on their infantry is better now than it was before.
Certainly.
For sure.
They'll be more survivable. So
I'm actually pretty hype on Sky Wardens. I think of all the units I've seen in this army, Sky Wardens actually look really good. The like ability in the charge phase to potentially move away and do mortal wounds, or I think it's maybe in the combat phase. Really good.
That stuff might apply a lot more now than it did before, because before they just killed everything they were fighting, or they all died, and it was like, that's a cool ability, it just never comes up, because there was like a weird glass cannon with that ability. Now it might change a little bit. We'll see on that.
How about Fire Slayers?
Fire Slayers are one of the armies that I currently have as like the bottom of S tier or high A. I think Fire Slayers are very, very, very good. They do require someone who really knows what they're doing with them, but like a lot of times they were limited before with like not getting to choose. Like their basically choices in what their plays were for a turn were like very, very, very limited before. And I don't feel that way as much now. The way that the battle trait is set up is like much more. There's a lot of plays that you can make that are really strong and not necessarily obvious on just the first reading, but very, very strong.
I'm looking over their stuff right now, just their faction focused stuff, and their first two rules I think are really strong. So let me get this straight: it's once per turn, it's once per game, but you can just pick a friendly, or all your friendly units have strike first against things that charge to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really
exactly
strong. Right. And then
Yeah.
I read the next one, and it says again, once per game, your army has a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're using one of these
for
every
the
battle
round. Yeah, but for the round, it's like like
super
oh my
good,
god,
right?
it's like that turn 2, turn 3, like.
So there, I don't know if you've ever played League of Legends, but I know you play Dota. This almost reminds me of like a stance changing character like Udyr.
Sure.
Like each of these, you're gonna have to, being a good Fire Slayer's pilot, you'll have to like know the tempo of which turns you want to use each of the runes, because you want to optimize your use of them, right? So
yeah. And even the ones that don't look as like strong, like let's say the Rune of Farsight, like late game when you have a couple units on the table for each player, and you like get all your couple small units into position, so they're near a bunch of stuff, and you do that, you're just doing D3 mortals on like their entire army basically late game. It's pretty darn strong. Like, so using these rules well, knowing when to activate them, they look incredible.
Or it's just against an opponent who's playing super cagey. Like, you don't forget, you have a rule that says that if you charge me, I get strike first against you. So there's going to be a lot of enemies that are like, I don't want to charge you. And then you're like, okay, you don't want to charge me? Fine. This turn, I'm just going to throw my axes at you. Right? It's like, okay, like, it's like, like, it's a lot more damage than I think it looks like. And it's one of those tool belt things. Right? And like you were saying, it's like, well, and if that doesn't happen, you can always kind of use it late game to like to finish off some units, right? To like put yourself over the edge. Like, it's gonna be good.
The heroic traits look good, the artifacts look good, like they just look like every aspect of them is done well, done right, and they're gonna be in the hands of a good player. I think they're gonna be one of the best armies going into the beginning of the 4th edition.
Yeah.
They look very strong. They have good war scrolls, they have good abilities, all the things that you said I agree with.
And every single rule that I read is like, well, that's really strong. Well, this one's really strong. This one's super strong. Like,
exactly.
Run and charge, crit mortals, weird little ranged attack, which is probably the weakest one. Strike first, then a 5-up board. Like, if I was going to pick the best things, I would pick these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, but no joke. No joke. Run and charge, crit mortals, 5-up board. And then the other one, strike first.
Yeah.
Like bonkers.
It's
almost
really
as good as Cruel Boys.
Okay, so like that's Fire Slayers, they're good. They were all great for the same exact reason. They're just rules are damn solid. Let's move on to an army that is one of my main armies. Last year I won best Idoneth for ITC and stuff like that. So I have very strong opinions on Idoneth. I think Idoneth is the strongest army in the game.
I kind of agree.
And I don't think it's close. Like, I think unless their points have been massively raised, I don't think I will lose a game for the first 3 months. What I'm seeing so far, it looks broken. Now, if their points are significantly increased, that ceases to be the case because they have a very real weakness. But like at a high level, Idoneth plays by being where it needs to be and picking the right fights. And the way that like the nets work now, for example, where like versus cavalry and monsters, I subtract a dice from your charge roll. That's like the one unit that you were scared of as Idoneth that could actually get to you is like no longer able to do so. On top of that, like you can do during the opponent's shooting phase, you can do the command and shoot the nets at people with 18-inch range. So you like if they do move up towards you, you're like, okay, well I'm just going to shoot you with my shark anyway. Who now has 2 shots in the net as well instead of 1. So you're just like not letting them get to you. The eels and which needed to charge to succeed. Now you have counter charging and they're flying. So like being able to charge on the opponent's turn, they get all your eel bonuses on them. Like the defensive eels are getting a 4-up save, -1 to your attack, and then 5-up ward because they charged you and they're pretty darn fighty. Is really, really strong.
Did you see the Leviathan today?
I did see the Leviathan. The Leviathan looks
5-up ward bubble.
5-up ward bubble. Pretty damn good.
Finally gets their 5-up ward.
Yeah,
a 5-up ward bubble is really strong. Like that's really strong.
That turtle is big. That's a big bubble.
Yeah, it's a big bubble, and like you can fly around. with it and have it actually affect units in your army that matter. Like,
Yeah.
your rules actually work together.
Because previously the Gloomtide gave off the 5-up, but it didn't affect any of the units you wanted it to.
Yeah, like it was the whole army.
Only Namardi. It's like, oh, okay.
Rules that didn't work with the rest of your army.
Yeah.
Like, and now that's not the case. All your rules, every rule they've shown so far, like works across the board, as opposed to just being like, oh yeah, this one thing gets it, and only in these specific circumstances that don't suit how you play the game.
Yeah. Looks super cohesive. Looks really fun to play. Looks like probably the fastest army in the game.
Yeah.
And I think their only weakness will be control score.
Yeah. That I agree, but they're so fast to take at least enough objections to score, I think, from you.
They have to be able to do a substantial amount of damage, I think, is the only thing that I like. They look like they can do okay damage, but against some of the tankier armies, they might struggle to just push you off an objective.
That I definitely agree with. They're not going to hit as hard as they used to, and they already didn't hit that hard. But I think what made them strong before, they're even better at that than before by a massive amount.
By a lot.
So I think it's going to outweigh it. I also think, like, one thing I was thinking about is like the breakthrough or whatever it's called, like
Power through. Yeah.
Power through is just nuts with them. Like when you have 14-inch flying move and you have like a 4-wound
wound deal.
Yeah, it's like charging with 6 eels. Oh, I didn't quite kill off a unit. I guess I'll just move 14 inches. You know, like it's really, really strong. So unless their points are really high, I am genuinely worried they're going to be like giga busted.
I'm worried that their points are actually going to be high and that they're going to be in the place that they were in 3rd edition, where their rules are really awesome and they start out super overpointed and it's hard to build lists, and then they'll have to bring the points down. Well, but if the points are in a reasonable place, I agree. They're going to be top of S tier.
Yeah. Their 3rd edition book, the rules were garbage, and they only started to get good once they got so cheap. Like,
once we had Shark Week, they got good.
Yeah. Like I was succeeding with them, but purely by spite. Like I was just working so hard for everyone was like, sweat.
Yeah.
Like just training. I lost my first 13 games in a row. I was like, Jesus Christ, this army. But eventually I got there. But it was so frustrating. But I think that we're in agreement. Top of S tier unless their points are insane.
How about?
I'm really hoping you can take like 3 Leviathans.
How about Daughters of Cain?
Daughters of Cain, I kind of feel the opposite about.
Yeah.
I don't think they're garbage. Like their war scrolls look better in some ways than before. But I think they were completely carried by having an absolutely busted grand strat and disgustingly overpowered battle tactics, and losing those in exchange for some war scroll buffs is going to leave them in a weaker spot unless the points also drop substantially. I don't think they're bad. They're just not. They're fundamentally fair except for Morathi, and they lost double shoot with the snakes, I believe.
Yep.
So, like, all the unfair stuff you were doing is taken away, and I don't think they're going to hold up playing a fair game unless the points have dropped a lot. That's my opinion on them.
And that would be kind of concerning, honestly. If the points go down a lot and Daughters of Cain becomes the Morathi plus Horde army, it's going to be so headache for everyone involved.
Yeah, like because Morathi's already like a frustrating model to play against.
Yeah,
like,
it's just not fun. Like you can beat it, but
it's just annoying. Like, I wish they would redesign her. Like I understand it's a really cool rule, but like it's like the Prawn Spine where it's like, yeah, that's cool, but it sucks. Like it's not fun.
It is for the Morathi player.
It's great for the Morathi player. Yeah, can confirm as somebody who played Necrons and really enjoyed the Necrodermis. Like it is a fun rule when you're playing it, but it's just so NPE for the other person.
It's also very, very, very feast or famine because, like, if you're fighting against the wrong army, it's a worthless rule. Like, you fight Ideth, you're like, cool, I shoot you with one guy's harpoon and run away from you.
Yeah,
and then
playing against it as Cruel Boys was always really easy.
3 in the shooting phase.
Well, but it's like,
in the hero
but
phase.
even then, you could just be like, I'm gonna shoot Morathi with 2 models.
Yeah.
And if I get 1 5 or a 6, or if I get 1 6, that's all I need. So I'm just gonna throw 4 dice at you.
Yeah,
and hope to deal 3 damage. And
he's like the most insane thing you've ever seen in your entire life, and it's like It's a bad rule in that way. I wish they would just drop her by like 250 points and remove that.
Well, they could give her
That'd
something
be
else. They could make
what
it.
would
They
they
could make
give
it.
her?
Feel, well, they could just give her like a really good ward. Right? It's like she's got a 4-up
Like a
ward.
4-up.
Yeah, and then
Or-
maybe it's like, but it could just be like you can punch through it. Like if you're throwing 25 damage at her, like she'll probably die. You
or
know?
if they had a rule where, like they could pass. There were 2 separate war scrolls where they could pass wounds between each other.
Oh,
So-
dark.
Right, and you can like heal
Daughters.
one of them. You know?
Yeah,
Daughters are supposed to be kind of like the Shadow Elves from 40k, right? Just give them a Shadow save. It's an ethereal 2-up until it fails.
Right. Well,
Yeah, something like
there's
that.
lots of things you could do.
I just don't like it. But like, yeah, I think Doc is going to be maybe like below C tier, like D.
Yeah.
Like
I don't
not
think they'll be good.
not garbage, but definitely not good.
Nothing in their stuff seemed interesting to me.
Yeah.
Same.
I remember reading it and being like, okay, Marathi. But
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
Well,
nothing
how about
else really excited me?
how about Lumineth Realm Lords?
They look fantastic.
They look
Yeah,
strong, which I hate.
They look, but they don't look strong in the way they used to be strong, which is a good thing. Because they used to be a
Agree.
prison army that would lock you out of the game in the most miserable way possible, and they don't look like they do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad they changed that because that was the worst. Everyone hated Lumineth.
Well, now it just looks like they're gonna play a bunch of cows, which is terrifying. Like they're gonna have so much ignoring rend.
Yeah, but like also
and
like
good magic.
everything looks good today. But like everything I've seen, them looks approximately as good as each other.
Yeah.
Barring points, things like cows appeal to you, but like for me, I'm seeing stuff and like to me the Huracan look incredible.
Oh, they do.
But I'm also an Idneth type player, so it's like.
Yeah.
But Sunray looked good. Like everything looks good, and it looks like mixed arms is probably the best way to play. But like not requiring it to be mixed arms, it can be anything. Like
I gotta
I
say, I'm
it's a
so
writing-
happy that Techless has a 5-up save now.
yeah,
Thank
Yes.
God.
yeah. He should die easily if he's caught out. Like he really should.
Well, now we can shoot him too. It gets way easier to shoot Techless now.
Yeah, but shooting is weaker, so you're not just gonna lose him every game. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a nice rebalance of things. I think they're gonna do a really good job of just playing games. You know, like outmaneuvering your opponent, picking the right fights, being surgical about it. Like they're gonna be definitely a House of Cards army. You know, if something goes
Yes.
wrong, your whole army collapses. But they seem fun now, and they seem strong.
How about
agree.
Seraphon?
Seraphon, I think, also looks great. Actually, I think they have really. I think they have really strong faction abilities. I think that wizards across the game got generally worse, and theirs really didn't.
Yeah.
I think that they have really good infantry, and they will probably be one of the most magic dominant armies in the game now. They got tankier, I think, which is great. And now they get to do some kind of deployment phase sideboarding stuff with how they play the game because they get to choose their asterism at the beginning of the game.
Which is really strong.
Love that for them.
Yeah.
Like, I think more rules like that in the game is great because it gives players more agency and kind of allows
You have to be careful
choose.
because you end up with this weird thing with priority where you and your opponent are sitting at the table being like, well, you choose all your special things or one of them or whatever, and then I do. And it puts like this weird like, oh, whoever has to pick that first like wins.
A lot of information ends up riding on a die roll. That can become a problem.
Right. So you
for
have to be
sure.
careful about how you do it, right? But
Yeah.
unless it's like a secret, but then that's even weirder.
One of the things I really like about how they've written the rules we've seen for Seraphon so far is that, yeah, they're going to be super magic dominant, but it's not going to be a shitty experience because, like, their magic is different than it was before. It's not just raining mortal wounds from across the table.
Or
across
just
your
getting,
whole-
and getting points and summoning whatever you want, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's not like that anymore. Now it's like, yes, you'll get your spells off and stop there. It's like, and that's how it should be. Like, thematically, Slan should be a extremely powerful supporting piece for an army of violent lizards.
Yeah.
And instead, it was like a laser cannon that could shoot you from the stars and stuff things. And it was like, this doesn't make any sense.
A space frog that could like summon a comet from space that would destroy everything on the battlefield, and then he also had some like crocodiles walking next to him for some reason.
Yeah, and now it feels like I love the way they rewritten the Old Blood on Carnosaur. He feels awesome. He's such a cool war scroll.
Much better.
Yeah.
Everything you'd want him to do. You look at that model, like, what should he do? And that's what he does now.
The only thing I would change about that model is that I think that they should have gone full send, and instead of saying control score, they should have said control characteristic. You can't reduce a characteristic to 0 anyway, so just let the Carnosaur reduce people's control down to 1.
I mean, that's interesting.
Per model, instead of for the whole unit.
That's
right, he's a big scary dinosaur, but it's score, right? So it's just total, and then you subtract 3 or whatever.
Yeah, that's not as good as I thought it was, but I thought it was the way you hoped it was.
No, it's just 3 from the total.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's useful, but
it's okay.
We'll have to
what
see
the Scarvet does.
Yeah, we'll have to see how impactful is it. But either way, his war scroll is way cooler, and the Ninja of the Gods is way cooler.
They still feel like they're going to be like an A-tier army.
Sorry, what?
Did you see the Arcus Sotek?
I have not seen the Arcus Sotek.
So the Bastiladon kept his 2-up save. Now the Arc of Sotek has 2 abilities. It first of all was a weapon with 20 attacks and crit mortals. That hits on 4s and wounds on 5s, so like you'll even get a couple through. And then it also has a combat phase ability where you pick up to 3 enemy units within 9 inches and deal D3 mortal wounds to them.
Oh, sick. I love that.
3 units,
great.
D3 mortal wounds.
That. Okay, cool. Yeah, see, and that's not oppressive when your army isn't already raining down mortals across the table.
Exactly.
So I think they're going to be a fun army finally, and people are actually going to smile when they see the match with the Seraph. I'm like, okay, this will be a fun game.
There's lots of time. If I saw Croak, I just felt bad.
You're just
like right away, it's like I don't even want to.
At the World Championships last year, I was in like the final round, and I matched up against Seraphon for the 3rd time, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it to you. Like, I don't feel like playing this game. And this is at the World Championships, like, because I wasn't competing for anything. I was like, I'm just tired of. This is just not going to be fun.
I've played this twice already, and it's not fun, and I don't want to do it a 3rd time.
And I probably could have won that game. I won the other ones. I just didn't want to do it. Like it, and that's how you know they wrote that army miserably.
Yep. When you're at a big tournament and you still want to concede to the army rather than just
play
play
an army that my army was good into. Also, like I just hated it. Like so now it's not going to feel like that. And I've talked to several Seraphon players, and they're overjoyed because they hated it too. They just like the dinosaurs, and they're like, why does it have to play this way?
Yeah, and I mean, it makes people not like you for playing Seraphon, but you like Seraphon because they're awesome. They're cool, like Mayan, Aztec dinosaurs. They're sweet. So I don't want to be hated for liking the cool army, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
How about Sylvaneth?
I think Sylvaneth are
poor guys.
Dumpster tier.
They are the worst army in the game now.
I read the Strike and Fade rule when it came out, and I felt so deflated because Strike and Fade was why I played Sylvaneth, and then from there it's just been like I've just been circling the drain on Sylvaneth.
I will say that I'm actually glad they changed the Strike and Fade rule because it was so strong that it made the army talk.
No, I'm gonna stand up for them.
No, like I get it.
To stay.
Well, they kind of did, like, they moved away from all rules that feel like Strike and Fade feels in 4th.
I know.
Right? There's no more shenanigans. Everything is going to feel like every army had a thing. Every army had a thing that felt like it was busted. Okay? Every army had something that felt busted. And it doesn't feel that way
Strike
anymore.
And Fade now, but...
Yeah, like...
one model being able to do it, like, in one army is different than just, like...
It is. They took away a lot of those teleport abilities.
They took away a lot of things that had no interaction.
Yes. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, you deployed wrong, I win.
Yeah, which I'm really glad for.
Yes, me too.
I don't think that the Sylvaneth stuff that we saw that they did get is enough of an improvement to make up for losing that.
Nope, and they lost like the trees, and they like the trees are so much weaker than they were.
The free one off the Tree Lord thing, like you don't get that, so like, and you don't have the free ones off of terrain pieces.
And the range is so short. It's like,
their sub factions aren't very good either.
Your opponent is going to stand on any trees that they think are annoying, right? And just probably fight them with like wizards and stuff in the back line. Like, who cares? And then any tree that's like annoying to them, right? Any tree that like they need to get rid of, they're just going to fight. They're just going to shoot it, and they're just going to be gone. It's like, well...
You want to know something sad? I think that Sylvaneth players are going to be forced into bringing Bridge.
Yep.
Like, seriously, though.
Like,
no joke.
That sucks. Like, having to bring Bridge to be able to summon trees at a good spot, to be able to then summon, then do your much worse Strike and Fade is, like, definitely not the play.
Bridge and Spell Portal are in the same one, too, right? So I guess they can do both of those.
It works well with them. Like, it's not like it's going to be bad. Like, it's probably going to be a good play to make. It's just, it's really going to rub the salt in the wound about how your Allegiance ability got destroyed. Like,
yeah, because you're literally replacing it with a manifestation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad.
But if their points are down enough, they might still be good. Like, and their War Scrolls.
We'll see.
Alariel looks incredible.
Alariel looks great. They have a lot of healing. I think the best looking subfaction is actually the one they previewed. And so I think they're going to be like a more monster based list, depending. Obviously we've said many times points depending, but like the rules for monsters look, I think, the best for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we haven't seen some War Scrolls might turn out to be like really, really different.
Yeah.
Because I know some of the War Scrolls like basically didn't work right. So like Dryads might look totally different and stuff like that. But I do agree, monster spam with them does look like a strong way to play. And you might just end up playing this like more, the ends of attacking Saruman type vibe, where you just kind of and like wade upwards towards them bit
with
by
a bunch
bit.
of tree lords, just like walking out
end
there.
Up being really strong because like Rend is way weaker, you're tanky as hell, and your healing is super strong. And the general War Scrolls are stronger, so you should be able to hold up a little bit better. Like, it's not going to be just bad, but I don't think it's enough unless points drop a lot.
So you're thinking lists that are like, Tree Lords, Tree Lord Ancients, like Durthu, and then like some mid sort of heroes like Drycha, maybe Lady of Vines, right? Like that's kind of what you're thinking. It's like lots of big guys, and then like some supporting dudes and some screens.
And maybe like a unit of bugs to run around and do annoying things. Like you're playing a more fair game than before.
Well, yeah, because then you have like more that Belthanos plus bugs or Alariel plus bugs.
Well, Belthanos could be good in a list like that, actually.
Yeah, we'll see. Because like the way that I want to play Sylvaneth, or the way that I played Sylvaneth in 3rd edition, I think that way of playing is basically out the window. Like I think it's just done. So the reason I played, what I used to really like, the way that I would play the list is I'd go all in on magic. For like all my list building choices as a way of guaranteeing getting the endless spell off, and then having strong Warsong bombs. Okay, and then from there it was Durthu, Strike and Fade. Yeah, like that was essentially what I was doing, guaranteeing Durthu, Strike and Fades, and dropping Warsong bombs, and then everything else just gets in the way. Right, and like you can't play that anymore. That's done.
And that's completely out the window. Yeah, that's gone.
That's gone.
I mean,
so we'll see what comes out of it, right? That's the thing too.
If the points were significantly lower on some of the units, you could still do that gameplay just a little slower. Like you could just like have more of a trading, before you couldn't afford to trade ever. The points were like insanely high because Strike and Fade was so busted. So I would not be surprised to see them significantly more efficient than before. So like, don't lose all hope on them. The points could be much lower because they opened up the ability from to be so. So we'll see on that. But
yeah, that's the message to all the Sylvaneth players out there, right? It's like, this might be, hang out for a bit and let the nerds figure out what's good, but before you give up on them. Because like I seriously thought about getting rid of my Sylvaneth army. Like it's crossed my mind a couple times. I'm like, I could probably trade it for something that I actually want to play, right? Like people love Sylvaneth and don't read the news, right? Right. Yeah. So shall we move on to Chaos? Let's see, what do we got left here? We have Skaven left to talk about.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
For a second.
Like, subscribe, wah.